Okay, you're
You
ready
ready?
to go. Okay, Dan.
Good evening. Can you hear me? No.
Yes, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay, good. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting of Monday, June 21st, 2021. Will the secretary take the roll, please?
Angela, you're on mute.
Angela, you're on mute.
I know, I'm sorry. It takes a minute to unmute myself. Here we go. Mr. Stepanek,
Here.
Ms. Jameson, present. Mr. Dobbin,
Here.
Ms. Kirby,
Here.
Mr. Perkins. Mr. Perkins. We saw him a minute ago.
I'm here.
Okay. Ms. Brunali
Present.
and Mr. Sillo,
Here.
Here.
Ms. Woike,
Here.
Ms. Ross.
Penny's not here, right?
No, I don't think Penny's here.
She's not.
Penny Ross is just joining the meeting. I've just let her in, so she is on the call.
Oh, okay.
Video or audio? Or-
Penny, can you
Penny, can you
identify
hear us?
yourself?
Penny?
You might have to unmute.
Penny, can you hear us?
Says she's on her iPhone. I wonder if that's an issue.
Penny?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Oh, all right, good. We can hear you now.
Great.
Will the secretary take the roll, please?
Okay. Are you
Oh,
ready to start?
You've already done that. And Penny, you're here. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Approval of the agenda. You all have a copy of the agenda?
Yes.
Any comments, questions? If not, can I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Peggy's approving and second is
I'll second it.
Angela. Okay. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 17th. You all have that in front of you. Any comments? May I have a motion to approve? I'll approve. I'll approve it. Who's going to second it?
I'll second it.
George will second it. Okay. Site visit minutes of June 10th. You all have a copy of that? Do you have a comment, Angela, on that?
No, I was just going to move approval.
You're going to move approval? Okay, fine. And who's going to second it? I'm going to have Anthony, you're seconding it, okay?
I'll second it.
All right, good.
All right.
And Dan, I'm just going to abstain because I was not there for the group site visit. I went on my own.
All right, thank you.
And I think that's the same with, sorry, Anthony, I believe that was the
It
same
is,
too. I
it
don't
is.
think you attended the actual official.
No, I went on
site
my
visit.
own.
So
So,
he probably can't second it.
no.
I'll second then. I was there.
George, all right, you second it. Applications to be received and it's complete scheduled for July 19th meeting. At this point, there's no new applications for July. Kathleen, will we still have a remote meeting? Anyone?
We will, in the event any new applications come in for July, we will receive them at the July meeting, but at this point in time, there will be no presentation at the July meeting.
All right, thank you.
Oh, Kathleen, will that meeting be in person or on Zoom or a combination? Or do you know?
I don't know as of yet, but as of right now, the town is in the process of trying to roll out some options and testing some ideas. At this point in time, I would assume for our commission, it will be by Zoom.
Good, not gonna attend it.
So Kathleen, just to keep the commission aware, there may be something coming in for the July meeting. The Land Trust New Canaan is looking to do something. We just haven't put it together yet, and they've tried to get me to put something together, but they're still very much in trying to figure it out. So there could possibly be an application for the July meeting.
Kathleen, what's the deadline on that?
July deadline.
The
would-
12th, I believe.
Correct, the 12th, July
Yeah,
12th.
so they're trying vigorously to figure that out, and I've been putting pressure on them to figure that out for the July 12th.
All right, thank you. All right, let's open anything else there? Let's open the regular meeting now. Application number 2021-32. Let me just read this a little bit. Dredge 2.1 acres of Silvermine Pond and remove sediment. Pond spoils to be disposed of off-site, repair existing stone masonry dam, restore all disturbed areas, no change to existing size of the pond. Agent Keith E. Simpson Associates. Keith, you're up, or Bill, whoever goes first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commission, for hearing our application. I do have a question, technical question. Are we able to share our screen this evening?
That's for Kathleen, Ray.
Okay, I think.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yes, so, Bill, do you see that option available to you at the moment?
Yep.
Okay, then you should be able to take over right from there.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, you got it.
Can you see us?
Yes,
Yes.
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 Good,
Yep.
good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna get our pointer up here. So the first slide here is the existing conditions plan. When we did the site visit, we came in on Mr. Williams' property on the west side of the pond, so we can get our bearings. And you can see existing residents here, tennis court here, and we were standing roughly in this area. To the north side is the Huckleberry Hill Road, where the river comes under the bridge at Huckleberry Hill. And then on the east side is another property, Mr. Strong. These lines represent property lines. So we have the property we were on, Mr. Williams on Valley Road. We have Mr. Strong, and then two off of Turning Hill. The pond is roughly 2 acres in size, part of the Silvermine River system. It is impounded by a dam, which is shown here really on the south end of the pond. There's a large stone, the dam itself is stone masonry. There's also a stone spillway that leads onto a large ledge rock. So the spillway, the water from, as it heads over the spillway, actually lands onto the ledge rock and then down into the river below. The pond is, there is retaining wall along some of the edges of the pond, particularly on the west side, where we're showing the pointer here, and also on the east side, there's a retaining wall along the edges there. There's a lot of bouldering and some minimal vegetation along the majority of the rest of the pond, really. And then at the north end is a bridge structure, and from Huckleberry Hill down to the water elevation is about 9 feet or so in difference in elevation. This slide is a bathymetric survey, and what that entails is there was a bathymetric survey team that went out physically in a boat onto the pond and used some technology, like sonar technology, to get the elevations below the water level, basically the bottom of the pond. And what this map shows is the different color variations are different depths from the water elevation to the bottom of the pond. So the red color is the shallowest, it's about a foot or so. And as it changes in color, This orange color is roughly 3 feet in grade below water. And as we get to the bluer colors, we're down to 7 or 8 feet actually in 2 pockets. We can see on the southern end of the pond here, and then also at the very northern point of the pond where the water comes in off under Huckleberry Hill. There's basically a sediment forebay there with some depth to it. Interestingly, we can see in the southwest corner, you can see a bit of green showing up there. That's a deeper pocket. There's a sort of a local deep pocket there where there happens to be an existing drawdown valve and a sump that comes out of there. So that shows up in the bathymetry, and we've identified it on the plumbers as well. I should note too, the so the southeastern corner of the pond here, there's a channel that inlets into the pond, and that channel is coming from a wetland system that's further upslope on the Strong property. This slide is of the proposed site plan. Obviously, the blue is all of the water body, the pond. The dam, again, is on the southwest end there in gray. You can see the large ledge rock is where my pointer is now, and then the river goes down below. The channel that we were just mentioning is down on at this point where the pointer is. And again, Huckleberry Hill is to the right on the northern end of the pond. This plan shows several things. It shows not only the existing contours of the pond that we obtained from the bathymetric survey, but the darker line are the proposed contour lines showing how much we anticipate dredging and what the bottom of the pond will approximately look like with contours. We have these dashed lines here indicate diversion pipes. We anticipate that the water is consistently going to flow at all times during this project. So the Silverline River will continue to certainly run throughout the dredging process. We'll be doing with diversion pipes down to that existing gate valve, which then there's a 15-inch pipe that extends out and around the dam and outlets to that point there. We'll also divert, which will likely be a minimal amount of inlet flow from this channel. We will divert that to the spillway as well. We anticipate expanding the deeper area of the pond in this sort of larger area that the contours show. We certainly want to scoop out the sediment forebay as much as possible. We don't anticipate dredging too close to the edges of the pond. We certainly don't have any plans to alter the edges of the pond themselves, other than where there are retaining walls. When we have the water level drawn down, we've had a project engineer in place to evaluate these walls further and do some repointing and some masonry repair, not only on the walls on the sides of the pond, but also along the dam as well. I should note too, your commission did give us a permit previously to inspect, to draw down the water level of the pond so that we could inspect the bottom of the pond further. So in addition to the bathymetric survey, when the water level was drawn down at that time, we were able to go out into the pond, actually, and have contractors go out into the pond and do some probing in and around. So that gave us additional data onto the depths of the sediment and the depths of the pond bottom. What that told us was that we've got, on average, about 12 inches of soft organic matter throughout the pond bottom until we're into more sand and gravel and sort of typical riverbed material. And that's really an average, because in some areas there's deeper sediment, 2 feet or more, and in some areas there's really only a few inches of sediment. So what we're anticipating is getting out the sediment which is roughly on average about a foot of material over the entire pond. And then we would, in addition, take out about another foot of material, another 12 inches of the sand and gravel below it. And all that adds up to about a total of 6,000 cubic yards. Half of it, about 3,000, should be the soft or organic matter, and another 3,000 in sand and gravel and that type of materials. On the east side of the pond, where my pointer is there, that will be our construction staging and also our construction access into the pond. So we anticipate coming off of Huckleberry Hill Road, there's very easy access. This is a large lawn area, no trees or really anything else there. And in the past, actually, when this pond had been dredged over 20 years ago now, this was an area that was used as staging at that time as well. And it certainly makes sense. And we agree that this is a good time, or a good spot as well to do our staging, to do our access. So we anticipate coming in off of Huckleberry Hill, setting up a staging area by minor regrading. We would sort of take the top layer of topsoil and try to get a level area as possible, certainly surround it with erosion controls. And then we would access the pond really only in one location, right about where the pointer is here. We don't anticipate coming in and out of the pond really in any other place. And so we would, the machine, and this will be done certainly by large excavators, mechanical machines to scoop out the material, and then it will be staged in this area while it dries, and then after the material has dried, it will be trucked off site. There are no plans to use any of the dredged spoils on any of the 4 properties actually at the moment. We anticipate all the material to come off site. So this staging area would be returned back to its existing condition and seeded. The material, as is noted in, I believe, the staff report as well, we know it is, as it's 6,000 yards of material, it cannot be all accommodated at one time. It'll be done in stages. There will be gathering of the material, drying it out, and then trucking it away, and then sort of repeating that process until we've reached the approximate elevations that we're showing on the plan. The spoils are going to be taken off-site to upland areas, to other sites that we anticipate. We've been in touch with contractors. We've had several so far take a look at the pond when it was drawn down. We've reached out for furthering the project with these contractors, and so we are understanding that a lot of the material will be locally used, probably on other project sites, but also can be recycled into and made into topsoil and other material that then would be used on construction projects. This next slide are the sections. These were included in the package of plans that were sent out. We took 2 sections through the pond. At this scale, what you can see is this top line is the water level. This sort of dashed line that moves down a bit is the existing pond level, and the darker line is the proposed bottom elevation. And so as we get closer to the shoreline, there won't be really any excavation, and then it gets a little bit further, a little bit more excavation as we get into the deeper areas of the pond. And that's what this plan shows. We don't anticipate disturbing, the edges of the pond, except in that one location where we are going to enter and exit the pond. So these are some photographs. First, we have photographs of when the pond was drawn down per our previous permit. What this shows is here's the dam. This is the downside of the dam. This is the large ledge rock that the spillway lands onto. You can see the contractors at work. These are all pumps that are drawing down the pond. And We anticipate drawing down the pond initially, certainly with the existing gate valve that's there. We know it opens, we know it's functional and it works. And we also will siphon the water level. We did that recently when we drew down the pond, so that there basically is a no sound to that actually, other than certainly the water falling. And then as is necessary, we anticipate using pumps. And what this also shows is sort of a generator setup actually on the dam powering the pumps. This is the upslope, upstream side of the dam, which has been drawn down quite a bit already in this picture. You can see material already not that far from the top of the dam accumulating. This gave us a good idea of what to expect as the pond gets drawn down further as far as the condition of the masonry. The dam and the retaining walls surrounding it are certainly not intended to be reconstructed in a major way. We did provide an engineering report which indicated that basically it's repointing, reinstalling a stone or two here and there that may have popped out. In general, masonry mortar repairing. There's another close-up of the pond, and we can see that that is the bottom of the pond up against the back of the dam there. Here's another shot. This is a view towards Mr. Williams' property. When we did our site visit, that's roughly where we were standing. You can see the pond in these pictures. While on our site visit, the pond was pretty full and was in its probably best looking condition. As the summer goes on and into the fall, because of the shallowness of the pond, we see how the algae and other vegetation accumulate considerably over the pond. This is a close-up of the dam. Actually has a bit of a planter kind of built into it, and we can see some of the repointing and masonry repair work that will need to occur. This is typical of what is of the type of masonry repair that's needed throughout the edges of the pond. So this is prior to drawing it down. You can see the water level is within a few inches of the top of the dam. And again, you can see the algae and vegetation. That's really indicative of not a very healthy aquatic situation. Another close-up. This also shows some of the work that will need to be done along the wall on the edge of the pond. This is Mr. Williams's property here. This is a view from Huckleberry Hill. To the left in this image is Mr. Strong's property. So you can see this really shows clearly a lot of the condition of the edge of the pond. It's boulders and almost riprap and vegetation growing in and around it, a few trees here and there. But this is our access as well. This is where we
Point of entry.
Yeah, right, exactly. This is our point of entry. We would be coming into the pond in that location, and up a little bit further is the staging area. It would be the staging area. That's the spillway, close-up of the spillway, right here, going down onto the ledge.
And that's the planter we're going for.
That's right. This is the planter in the foreground here. Just a shot across the pond again from sort of the Huckleberry Hill kind of corner where Williams is looking out. This is approximately that channel that comes in from wetlands that are further upstream.
And there's branches and trees sticking out of the pond at that point too.
That's right. We know, that's right. We know there is a good deal of debris that has collected over the last 20 years plus of not only silt and sediment, but obviously leaves and branches and other debris that has been accumulating over time. This just brings us back to our site plan, our rendered site plan, proposed conditions. I don't know if if you had anything to add.
Yes, I think, thanks, Bill, for covering so much. A little bit about the watershed. This, this is sitting in the Silver Mine River, which is one of our major rivers here in town. But upstream from this pond is over 13 square miles of watershed which flows into the pond, and we know a lot about that watershed. It's almost all residential use, plus some roads, but very significantly is there are two large reservoirs of the Norwalk taxing district, which supply water actually down Valley Road and all the way into Norwalk. I think what's important to bear in mind with that is that the water quality which is in this river is monitored to a very high level of precision by a public water supply. So it isn't as though nobody is paying attention to what's in the river and what's flowing down towards this pond. The reservoirs are only about a mile upstream, and I'm sure you all have seen them. We drive across between the two of them, but they're the major reservoirs, the group's reservoir is the big one up there, and so because it's a part of a public water supply system, I think we've been able to get a fair amount of comfort over the quality of the water coming to the pond, and also below that, there's only really one or two roads crossing the river with their bridges. We do get some sand and some salt and some material typical to come off the roads, but there's nothing upstream that we're aware of which is problematic to this pond and therefore problematic to what we expect to find. So we have done some preliminary testing of what the material is in the pond, and it's coming up very much as to what we would expect. So we think that this part, the material coming out of the pond will be very safe and appropriate for reasonable use and be able to be integrated onto other properties. And as Bill said, into upland areas. None of it will go into an area regulated by this commission. I can assure you that, without us, coming to the commission for a permit to do that. But basically, our stipulation to the in the specifications to the contractors who are going to be coming forward with proposals to do this work, it will state that none of this material was to be deposited in either wetlands or areas regulated by this commission. This is not going out to a widespread bidding process. We're very interested in, on behalf of all the four owners of the pond, we're interested in this being done expeditiously and with a very high level of professionalism. We do, I know I've known this pond for over 20 years, 25 years. And I know it was dredged about 20 years ago, but not as thoroughly as we want to do it now. And we would like to do this time around, we would like to do it with only one of maybe 3 or so of the most contractors, all of whom we know have done extensive pond work and are capable of coming in here with significant size of equipment and to basically achieve the whole thing, draw it down, remove the material out, dewater it, dry it out. And the people that we're considering for this work, pond dredging is a major part of their normal activities. And so it will not be sort of going out to bid with somebody who doesn't have adequate machinery and equipment to do this. We hope that it can get done in over a period of maybe 4 to 6 weeks, 8 at the most. Obviously, it's somewhat weather dependent. We're trying very hard to get it done within a period of low flow, which would mean August, September. We are getting some other permitting from the state because of the work that's being done on the dam itself. Our structural engineer, Stephanie Hubbard, has put together a report for you, which we forwarded on to you, explaining what she is proposing by way of structural improvement to the dam. As Bill said, we do not need to be rebuilding this dam, but like all, it is almost 12 feet high. So it's not a minor small dam at all. So the prudent thing to do is to maintain this dam in a responsible way, which we're really trying to ask for permission to do right now. The wing walls, as Bill pointed out, and we saw the photographs, need attention. The dam itself needs a certain amount of attention. I would add that the silt which builds up on the upstream side of the dam acts as a sealant for us. So when we dredge the pond with people who are responsible and know what they're doing, they will not be going right up to the back of the dam and pulling out the silty material at the back of the dam, because we actually want that to remain as a fairly thick sealing material. And so the dredging portion of the pond will be backed off from the dam and will be much more in the middle of the pond. The valve, which Bill referred to, is in fact very deep. It's down, its discharge point is 11 feet below the top of the dam. So that means that once we excavate in that area and get down to that valve, which operates a 15-inch pipe, then a 15-inch pipe can handle a lot of water which comes in. So if we're in a period of low flow, which we hope to be, and we divert the incoming water from the river underneath the bridge and put that into a pipe of similar size, and we can direct it to a location 11 feet below the top of the dam. What we anticipate is that once we're down at that level, then we really should not have major water intrusions into the pond, and the pond material, seeing as we're looking to take off the top 2 feet or so, the pond material itself will start drying out in place. So we won't necessarily need to dig it up, dry it out, and take it off. It will actually be drying out very significantly in the location that it's in as soon as we take down the water. So those are the main components. I thank Bill for explaining it all, and we're certainly here to answer any questions that you may have. And it has taken quite a while to get the 4 owners of the property together too, because for quite a long time, the property, Mr. Stone's property, was on the market, and it was basically was for sale, and therefore there was no wish for movement on the dredging of the pond itself. Now that the property is owned, we're glad to say, by Mr. Stone, and we are able to use that route of access into the pond and also take out the material out of the Huckleberry Hill. There are double gates along the fencing in that area in anticipation of the activity. So we really hope that we can get approval to do this in a timely way, because we do know that every 20 years, ponds of this nature do need this kind of maintenance and dredging. And we also do know that a dam of this height really does need to have attention paid to it. And Mr. Williams is anxious to do that because clearly with masonry work, the sooner you deal with it and point it and keep it in really good repair, the less you have to do in the event of major storms or damage from that kind of thing. So we're very happy to answer any questions that you may have, Kathleen, or commission members. Thank you for the opportunity to present this.
Yeah, Keith, this is Dan. So at this point, you don't see any need to improve the dam in any way. But it doesn't mean that once the water is drew down, there it may need some improvement to the dam to make sure it's solid and whatever. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. Most of the most of the attention needs to be in the top sort of 3 or 4 feet of the dam because that's where there's most ice activity. Ice damage is what actually causes sort of pressure against the dam, deterioration of it, and so on. But you're right. There's no need to make any structural changes to the dam other than that there is this rather odd planting area at the end of the dam near where the spillway is, which I think was probably a genuine sort of attempt to try to make a sort of attractive planting area at the end. But the dam only has, the top of the dam is 4 inches above the level of the spillway, which is down there in the corner, which is rock. And so when there's a major storm and the pond level kicks up, the entire top of the dam becomes the spillway for the dam. And so it's very important to pay attention to that. And if stones move or they need replacing or anything like that, we really need to get on top of that. And so we don't think the planter is a really good idea. At the end there, Mr. Williams has said that from time to time, plants were put in there, but then when a major storm came along and the pond level kicked up, it washed them out anyway. So it was not a good thing. So I think if we can put stone in that planter, we'll dig out that area, fill it with stone, put some concrete in there, probably put some rebars in there, and toughen that up. And I think the dam will be actually better for that, but that'll be done under the direction of the structural engineer, Mr. Hubbard, who has had a very good thorough look at the dam. And so it's really of a maintenance nature, but that's the only change really beyond just putting stones back in place and extra water. I'm
But
sorry, that's a long answer to a short question, Mr. Chairman.
But if you did work on the dam, would you have to get the state involved? That's what I'm kind of leading up to. Would the state need to be notified and take a look at what you're doing and how you're trying to improve it and the structure and the whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually in touch with the state, and we do know the unit of the DEP which deals with the dams. And as I'm sure you know, only the state has jurisdiction over the actual structural integrity of the dams and the work on the dams. I know from a soil erosion and a responsible management of how we do it, your commission is interested in that, but it's definitely going to be overseen, and we will not be doing the work on the dam until the state has signed off with a permit for us to do that.
I see. Any questions, anybody?
Yes, Keith, I have a question. For the benefit of those that were not at the at the sidewalk, could you indicate where the wetlands are and what effect this project might have?
Yes, I'll answer. This is Bill Pollack. We did obtain from the inland wetlands files very good data on the locations of the existing wetlands. For the vast majority of the pond edge is the extent of the wetlands. There are no wetland soils beyond the pond edge, except when we go back down to where this channel is. There is a swath of wetlands that comes in and then ties back into the pond, roughly around where my pointer is. So there are wetlands in this area of the site. However, we certainly won't be accessing the wetlands area at all, except from inside the pond, doing some dredging closer to that area. But any access and any of the work to the dam or the wing walls is not within wetland soils, other than, of course, the pond itself. But there are no wetlands beyond the pond edge in any proximity to where we're doing work.
Thank you very much.
This is Angela Jameson. What is the biggest challenge of a project like this? And could you perhaps elaborate on any problems that you think you might encounter as you embark on the project?
Well, having done so many ponds over the years and so on, I think the biggest problems that we encounter really is if there is a major storm during the operation, and which is why we try to pick periods of lower flows. But if that does occur and there is a major storm, then the pond, and I've had it happen, the pond fills up with water, and we just get delayed while we wait for the storm to pass, and then we drain it down again. And it's a big inconvenience, but if we do get good vertical casting, and so I think that we're able to prepare for something like that, and make sure that there's no downstream erosion and no downstream impacts. But I think that's the thing that always worries us the most when there's a project of a pond dredging, which takes more than a few days of weather forecasting. I mean, once we're into a few weeks, then there's always that possibility. So I think that's the thing that we kind of worry about the most. But we stay in very close contact with whoever is doing the work at the time. And I don't know, I guess after so many ponds over the years that I've dredged and so on, then I'm always learning. But it's that I think is the main thing that I worry about.
And so you will need some power source, I guess, for some of the operations. You're going to use generators?
Well, when we drew the level of the pond down, as Bill said, we did as much as we could by siphoning it down, which of course doesn't require any power, but it's quite a lot of manpower to get the siphoning going. But once it's going, you can get a lot of water going down quickly. But then they did set up generators on the pond, on the dam itself, and which you saw in that photograph. So there was some pulling down of the pond level by pumping run by generators. There is significant power at Mr. Williams' house, but on the other hand, the amount of power which pumps draw to pump water of that quantity and so on, it's really better if they have generators set up to do that. But once the level is down, I think that hopefully with the drawdown valve, which is in place at a very deep level, we should hopefully not have to do any further pumping. We're able to control that valve, and we're going to make sure that it's fully operable and lubricated. And when you're down there, you might as well make the effort to make sure it's clear and unclogged and everything else,
And if there were a significant power outage during the period that you'd already started the project, I guess that would be a bit of a problem.
Well, actually, I don't know that it really would, actually. I understand the question, but I mean, the generators are gas-operated generators. So actually, a power outage really wouldn't interfere with it. But I know, we've been in a week-long power outage not that long ago. But I don't think that would affect us. We would have the generators to keep the pond activity continuing.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, Kathleen Holland here. You should see on your screen that Penny Ross has her hand raised, and I don't see anyone else with a question, but they may just jump in.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, good. Keith and William, I have what might be called a vested or highly interest in this project because I live perhaps 3 miles down the river from where the project is going to happen. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, right.
Okay, good. So I live on Mill Road down in New Canaan.
Right, I know
So-
what that is, right.
Yeah, so I very much appreciate what Kathleen told me years ago, that Silvermine River is a Class A river. And that is actually why I joined the Inland Wetlands Commission, is because I live right, literally overlooking the Silvermine River, which is, why I live where I live. So, so I was very interested that Mr. Pollock said that water will consistently flow from the group's reservoir, down the river. I find that where I live, starting right now, you could actually walk across my part of the river. So, I'm not finding that there's a consistent flow of water. Yet, just selfishly, my concern is what is going to be the effluent that flows over the spillway that will come down to the rest of the river? And is there a plan to keep from what's the word, polluting, the downflow from the spillway? So that's my question.
Oh, okay, well, I think I could help you with that. The amount of water which is flowing through the pond, of course, is driven by the rainfall upslope from it. And just as it is the same for the reservoir. So there's no guarantee of continuous flow downstream throughout the year because it's basically weather dependent. So what will happen is right now the pond is below the spillway crest, so water is actually very limited in its flow coming into the pond and also going out of the pond at the moment. When we start the dredging operation and we start pumping down the pond, the way that the water is taken is we take it from the top down. So we don't start from the bottom up, we start from the top down. And we actually do it by floating the pump intakes on what's like an inner tube. And so it's basically skimming off the clean water from the pond and then taking that over the dam, and that goes down into the river. So in fact, there may be some flow coming down the river, which would not otherwise normally be coming down the river at that time of the year, because we're basically drawing down the pond. Once the pond is down, and if we get into if the pump inflows get down to a level where there's any risk at all of silt, or if it goes down too far, then they shut up. We don't pump down below a certain level when the water ceases to be clean. But once that water is down, then based on the weather flow, there may or may not be water continuing on downstream, but we will have a pipe in place up underneath or right up against the Huckleberry Hill Bridge, and any water which comes in towards the pond at that point, we will have basically put a sort of little cofferdam there, and we'll be directing that flow into the pipe, which will bypass the pond basically, and that water will go in a solid pipe all the way down. And so there could be 15 inches of water coming underneath the dam, through the dam, and providing water downstream. But that is because it's being captured at the point of entry into the pond up at Huckleberry Hill. It's perfectly clean water. It's just it isn't in any way affected by the activity that's going on in the pond.
Okay.
And then eventually, when the pond is work has been done, then we will turn off the drawdown valve, and what water comes down through the watershed at that point, maybe in September, October, or that kind of time of the year, the pond fills up really, and we noticed it when we drew it down recently. It fills up really quite quickly. It's not only fed by water coming down from upslope in the watershed and coming on at Huckleberry Hill, but there's also a very significant amount of groundwater which seeps out of the surrounding areas into the pond, and also there's that additional, much smaller channel which Bill referred to on the east side of the pond. So that will also provide some clean water into the pond. So I guess this is a long answer to a question, but it means that yes, we will be interrupting the flow which you normally receive as we draw down water and then let it fill back up again. But the net result is the same amount of water should be coming through to you.
Oh, well,
Mr. Simpson, it seems like you're putting in basically a filter that will probably help downstream, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
all right, but I still have a question. Are we hearing me, Penny? Yes, we are. All right, so, I am not a hydrologist. I'm only someone who lives on this river, and I've lived here for 10 years. And I can tell you that there was one time in a very dry summer when all of a sudden there was an actual, like a tsunami coming down the river. So I just know what I know, that was a release from the reservoir, that they do control the flow of the river. So, I have a concern because I'm looking outside right now where the bluegills are nesting right outside of my window. And, I don't know what else to say, but that's it. That's all I can say.
If I could just, briefly answer that and say that the taxing districts, they definitely do have an influence, and they have a great deal of authority under which to capture water and then allow additional water to go downstream and manage the water upstream from us. So I think this pond is subject to their management of their water system and management of their reservoirs, just as you are downstream. So we sympathize with the fact that the flow may be more erratic than it would normally be, than if it was just left to the weather conditions. But I could, you certainly could get in touch with the taxing district and ask them what their policy is regarding water flows coming into the pond.
Yeah.
Not coming to the pond, but coming down to your property in the river.
I can tell you they have no interest in talking to me because I've tried that. But the other question I have is that a member of the New Canaan Fire Department, who I won't name him by name, but he told me there was a plan to put a dry hydrant in up there. What is that about?
Yeah, they have been in touch with us, and in fact, almost every time that we do a pond, we discuss with them the possibility of putting in a dry hydrant, because of course that is for the benefit of all the people in the neighborhood, not just the people who live on the pond, but everybody who lives within range of a fire hydrant. So yes, we're in touch with the fire marshal Mr. Paulian, we definitely are interested in adding a fire hydrant and working with them. And of course, the fire hydrants, the dry hydrants, are only as good as the depth of the pond. So if you have to have 2-3 feet of water above a dry hydrant for it to be able to withstand the enormous suction which is applied to it when it gets hooked up to one of the big fire trucks. So yes, we're very interested in having a particularly deep water pocket at the point of inflow coming in from Huckleberry Hill, which is where we would be positioning a dry hydrant, so that when they attach to it, they will actually be pulling in water rather than mud and silt and so forth. But yes, we definitely want to do that with a dry hydrant. Sorry, we should have mentioned that. I forgot about it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. You've answered my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Williams, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And if there's any time you want to add something or expand on something or elaborate or whatever, just raise your hand and you'd be welcome to discuss it if you'd like to. I want to make sure I see you there, and I hope that, okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I actually don't have any questions or additions. I think it's clear the commission understands the scope and scale of the project. Keith and Bill have done a nice job of explaining it. And I don't have anything to add or any questions to answer. I am paying attention though, Mr. Stepanek.
I see you there, yes. Any other comments?
Yes, this is Angela Jameson again. Could you perhaps just talk to what will happen to the aquatic life during the time that the pond is being dredged, and what your plans are for ensuring its well-being?
Right. Yeah, we are asked about that regularly, and it's a very understandable question. For one thing, they're in the sort of east, they're sort of in the middle of the pond where we saw that bathymetric survey. There are portions of the pond which are actually very deep and already. And ponds tend to silt in and get their accumulation sort of from upstream. So the upstream areas of a pond tend to be silted first. It's what we call a silt plume, which develops on a pond. So what happens is the fish life, as the pond gets drawn down, the fish life migrates into the deeper sections of the pond. And so we do not anticipate that the pond will go completely dry in all areas. But if there's any significant fish population, then the people that we work with who do this pond work can net those, and then the state asks that we relocate any fish life, particularly to other ponds, either upstream or downstream, but within the same river system. They don't want us sort of migrating the fish from one river to another, which probably happened in the past. But so we may well just take the fish population and take it, a few hundred feet downstream and let it continue in the stream system further down. But also quite a lot of the other aquatic life, eels and quite a lot of the fish, they actually go into the mud and survive quite a while in sort of semi-hibernation until the pond fills back up again. But we'll definitely be very mindful of the aquatic population of the pond while we're doing the operation.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Colin Dobbin. Could you explain the turbidity curtain and how that works, where it's going to be used in this in the project? Because I had a hard time finding it on the map.
Sure, Colin. Downstream from the dam, we are proposing a turbidity curtain. That is extra protection should any silt or other materials make its way to the downside of the dam. The turbidity curtain would catch that, and prior to the finalizing of the project and taking out the erosion controls and taking out the turbidity curtain, someone by hand can inspect it and scoop out any material that may have accumulated. So that is the purpose of that, and the function of that turbidity curtain. Location is downstream from the dam itself.
Okay, thank you very much.
You know,
Kathleen?
Perfect timing, Dan. I just raised my hand.
Okay.
Kathleen Helen for the record. Bill and Keith, I've been taking notes along the way, so I apologize in advance if you did review this. But can you just talk a little bit about when you are decommissioning the soil stockpiling area and how that will be restored, and the vegetative plants that you might have designed for that edge of the pond?
yes, sure. So once we have finished dredging the material, and the last amount of stockpile material is taken off site, we would regrade the area that was disturbed to approximately the existing condition. And as that upper area is all existing lawn, that would be seeded. We would certainly keep any silt fence or other erosion controls up until the seed was had germinated and was pretty well established. On the edge of the pond, where we are planning to enter and exit the pond, we will plant that with native switchgrass, which is consistent with the edge of the pond on this side of the pond on Mr. Strong's property there. So that is the planting plan for that particular area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything else, Kathleen?
No, I
Okay.
think the discussion actually covered anything that I had in my staff report. All those questions have been answered. I did want to add that I was able to engage the Director of Health and also our town engineer for a site visit at this location. And so they have viewed the area. They had no follow-up comments. All the details are on the plan to make sure, the septics are protected, and any additional anti-tracking or area onto the town road would be swept clean, and all the details are in the plan. So I think everything has been satisfied from the staff point of view.
Kathleen, do you see any need for any report to be made at the end of it to show compliance with anything? Is there, where I was going was, I didn't hear any special conditions, but sometimes we have required applicants to say that they've done all the things that are on the plan. Would that be appropriate here?
I think that's a good point, Colin. Just a final report from the landscape architect, upon completion of the project, and of course, good communication along the way. If there are things that come up, we certainly would want to be in the know about any issues that might arise on a project of this size. I think that's a very good suggestion.
And Kathleen, in your report, you did also talk about maybe the anti-tracking pad needed to be a minimum of 50 foot by 20 foot wide. Is that something that you still see as important?
I just would be cautious with the amount of trucking that's going to be coming off this area, and that area truly be beefed up. One thing that slightly has changed my mind is during the presentation, Mr. Simpson pointed out that they are able to very successfully dewater the sediment. At least that's what they're anticipating doing with the bypass pipe that's deep into the area. So the material will be more or less dry, which is very positive before it's actually moved off-site and trucked away. I think, honestly, to keep, the consultants and the contractor should keep an eye on that area, because this is a significant amount of material that will be trucked to various other locations. So we want to make sure the town road is kept clean, and that we also don't have on a storm event any sediment that does get in the road back into Mr. Williams Pond. So that's the goal.
Will the trucks come down your driveway, Mr. Williams?
No, actually, if Bill will point it, coming off of Huckleberry Hill Wall, there's actually along Huckleberry Hill, there's a stone wall on Mr. Strong's property. And approximately where it's located there, where Bill has his pointer, there's actually a double wide gate, as if there was provision to make access into the property easy. And so those gates will just be swung and left open, and the trucks can come and go through there. It's literally 6 feet from his wall to the edge of the road.
I see. I see.
Could I just make a comment about the anti-tracking area? And your point is well taken, Kathleen Holland. But actually, anti-tracking is never a one-shot event when we're doing pond work or anything like that. Because there's activity coming in and out, then anti-tracking is something which is kept track of, I would say, all the time. So if we need additional trap rock, if we find that there is a mud accumulation or something like that, then we know very well that the town checks up on these kind of things with good reason, public works and so forth. And so if the contractor who's working on the dredging of the pond needs to come in and with another load of trap rock to put on top of the anti-tracking area to make it cleaner and better. And also they often sort of wash down the gravel, which is in the anti-tracking area, then that's what happens. But anti-tracking is not a one-shot event at the beginning of a project. It's actually an ongoing activity, which we all pay close attention to.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, just one question on the timing. It sounded, Keith and Bill, that there is an element of needing to get this done at a certain time of the year. Assuming we approve it, when do you expect that the project will go forward?
Well, we're really pending approvals from the state, and there's not only the one from the on the structural aspect of the dam, but there is another permit too, which we'll need to get from the state. So we're in touch with them on a regular basis. We're communicating backwards and forwards. We have Zoom meetings with them as we're experiencing now. They've been very cooperative. They've been very appreciative of the information which we have supplied, and I think we're trying to give them the most professional information that we can come up with from the various people we have working on the project. But I cannot predict when they will come through with all of the elements of the permitting which they like to take a look at. So I wish I could, and I know Mr. Williams wishes that we could predict exactly when, but
Without a doubt.
we're doing the best we can to satisfy all their questions as they come up.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody? Can I hear a motion from
I'll
someone?
move to approve.
Who said, is that Colin?
Column, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, George Perkins, I second the motion.
Can I just say, are we approving the project with the condition of a final report from the landscape architect at the end?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Angela, that's what I meant, because I had made that suggestion, so thank you.
I can't see everybody, but all those in favor, raise their hand. Is there anyone that is not raising their hand? All right, so the motion's been approved with that special condition. Oh, there we go. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
One clarification for the record before we let this group go. Penny Ross, I believe, is an alternate, so not seated. So I'm sorry, Penny, I see you put a hand up there, but I don't think you are seated for this application. So but it still carries. So the motion still carries with the regular members being seated.
I just want to say thank you to the homeowner and to Keith and Bill. It was very informative. It was very useful to come out and see that site, and thanks for all the information you gave us.
Thank you for your serious consideration. It means a lot to us.
Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure.
Excellent presentation.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye. All right, agent report, administrative actions. We have two here. Kathleen, anything you want to comment on?
Items 7 and 8 came through the process and are probably largely getting ready to be underway, both of them. One is mostly landscaping activities at a project at a location at 52 St. George Lane. Nothing in the wetlands, but within the review area. And the second project is a fairly newish homeowner at 28 Woodway Ridge Lane, looking to do some construction activities that involved the things described there. And some of those activities are within the upland review area. Both projects have contractors on board, and I believe they're going to initiate things within the month, if not already.
Okay, thank you. There's one thing we haven't added here, and I see it's the educational program that we discussed in June. For those who are not aware of it, Kathleen put together a one-page flyer on the Wetlands Commission, and then we're also working with the land use department for them to add some material. So we're working on that. We should have a draft fairly soon. Is that right, Kathleen, from the land use, do you think?
Well, it's not land use. The second half of the flyer will actually be the planning and zoning department. So yes, planning and zoning is working on the suggested questions or their second part of the flyer. And hopefully, yes, I will keep after them to see if we could get some comments back. And then at that point, I would like to share the flyer with the entire commission. At this point, I did have Dan and Angela take a look at what it's looking like for the inland wetland side. And I think we made good progress and good comments to date. And hopefully, the goal is to have this flyer distributed with Stephanie Radman's organization, the Welcome Wagon. I've already spoken with Stephanie. She's all on board with going forward with inserting the flyer. Was happy to do that for us. We just have to get her the information at this point in time.
Thank you. Any other new business? Go ahead. Yes.
Can you hear me, Dan? It's Penny.
Yes, go ahead, Penny.
All right, so back in December, I was asked to reverse my decision to, become, what's the word, active versus inactive. And then Kristen Matrakis resigned. So I haven't heard anything for the last 6 months. So I realize that I am alternate now, but whatever is going to happen.
Well, we're working on it. That's what I say. It takes a while. Hopefully by, where are we now, in June? Hopefully we'll have an answer and by the end of the summer, we should, yes. Okie
doke. Well, obviously, not obviously, but you all may not know this. The reason that I initially stepped down, so to speak, from active to alternate was that I was intending to sell my house here, and I thought it would be a good idea to open up the, that seat. So clearly I am not moving out of town. So, but, it puts me in sort of a position that's sort of tenuous at this point. So interesting.
All right, well, we hear you and we're working on it and we should have an answer very soon.
Well, I hope it's a positive one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other business? Anything else? Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll see you in July, right, Kathleen? Yep.
Thank you all. Good meeting.
Thank you.
you.
Bye now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Hi, guys.